The glossy pages of modern fashion magazines and the infinitely scrolling feeds of digital media platforms have long served as our windows into a world of seemingly flawless perfection. For decades, we have looked at these striking images of public figures, actors, and cultural icons with a mixture of admiration and envy. Every line is perfectly smoothed away, every shadow is mathematically balanced, and every silhouette appears to conform to an impossible geometric ideal. We have conditioned ourselves to accept this immaculate standard as reality, viewing these figures not as ordinary human beings who wake up with imperfections, but as genetic anomalies walking among us. This illusion of absolute physical perfection has become the foundational currency of the global entertainment and beauty industries, constructing an aspirational wonderland where the natural signs of living, aging, and human variance are completely erased. Yet, beneath the vibrant colors and breathtaking compositions of these photographs lies an invisible architecture of digital manipulation that has quietly reshaped how humanity perceives itself. We are exposed to thousands of these heavily altered images every single day, often without a moment of conscious realization that what we are consuming is not a reflection of a real person, but a highly curated piece of digital sculpture. The human eye has become so accustomed to seeing pristine skin textures, unnaturally narrow waistlines, and idealized facial symmetry that the genuine, unaltered human form can now feel shocking or out of place when it occasionally slips through the digital filter. This constant exposure has created a profound psychological landscape where the line between an authentic physical presence and a fabricated marketing asset has blurred almost to the point of total erasure. We find ourselves living in a culture that worships the image of a person rather than the actual person, establishing a silent but incredibly powerful contract between the media creators and the public to maintain a beautiful lie at all costs. Before we dive deeper into the hidden machinery that creates these flawless digital illusions and explore the growing resistance against them, take a quick moment to subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the cultural shifts shaping our modern world. The fascinating evolution of this phenomenon traces its roots far beyond the advent of modern computer software. Long before pixels and digital airbrushing tools existed, the desire to alter the photographic record to match an idealized aesthetic was already deeply embedded in society. Early portrait photographers in the 19th and 20th centuries regularly used physical knives to scrape negatives, delicate graphite pencils to fill in wrinkles, and specialized chemical washes to alter the shadows on a subject's face, proving that the human impulse to present a manicured version of reality is as old as photography itself. However, the sheer scale, speed, and accessibility of modern digital enhancement have transformed this historical artistic vanity into an all-encompassing cultural crisis. What once required hours of meticulous manual labor by a highly trained darkroom technician can now be accomplished in a fraction of a second by a simple smartphone application algorithm. This democratization of perfection has meant that the pressure to conform to these fabricated ideals is no longer confined to the elite echelons of Hollywood stardom or high-fashion modeling. It has trickled down into the everyday lives of ordinary individuals who now feel compelled to filter their own daily experiences, family photos, and personal memories before presenting them to the digital public square. The consequences of this shift are rolling across our collective consciousness like a silent wave, fundamentally altering the mental health, self-esteem, and social anxieties of entire generations who are constantly measuring their very real, unfiltered lives against an endless stream of highly sophisticated digital illusions. We look into our own mirrors and see pores, asymmetrical features, and the natural textures of life, and we mistakenly feel as though we are failing a test that has actually been rigged from the very beginning. The tension between the real world and the manufactured image has reached an unprecedented boiling point, setting the stage for a massive cultural reckoning. A quiet but powerful friction is growing just beneath the surface of the entertainment industry, as the gap between who these famous individuals actually are and how they are forced to appear to the public grows wider by the day. We are starting to witness the very first cracks in this grand digital facade, driven by a growing sense of exhaustion from both the audiences who consume these images and the very subjects who are trapped within them. The question of whether we can ever return to a world that celebrates genuine human authenticity, or if we are permanently locked into a future where reality is merely a suggestion, remains one of the defining cultural dilemmas of our time. As these digital cracks in the grand facade of public imagery continue to widen, the tension is moving from a quiet psychological discomfort into an open confrontation with the heavily guarded systems of the media industry. For many years, the inner workings of high-end photo editing were treated like closely guarded industrial secrets, spoken of only in the quiet backrooms of publishing houses and creative agencies. The general public was meant to look at a completed magazine cover or a billboard advertisement and simply accept the glowing, pristine figure on display as a testament to the miraculous power of luck, diet, and exceptional genetics. However, as advanced photo editing software shifted from expensive corporate desktop computers into the palms of everyday citizens through accessible mobile applications, the secret was fully revealed. Audiences began to realize exactly how much labor went into creating a single flawless image, noticing the telltale signs of digital alteration that had previously gone completely unnoticed. Suddenly, the sharp corners of background walls that curved unnaturally around a model's waist, the missing reflection of a limb in a mirror, or the uncanny smoothness of skin that lacked any human pores became obvious markers of a deep, systemic deception. This widespread public realization has created an intense wave of skepticism, forcing modern audiences to view every single celebrity image with a heavy sense of doubt. What was once seen as an aspirational dream is now frequently viewed through a cynical lens, where viewers immediately begin to scan a photograph for technical errors and digital shortcuts, rather than appreciating the artistic merit of the composition itself. The pressure on famous individuals to maintain these impossible standards has meanwhile reached a breaking point, creating a bizarre paradox where the people who are considered the most beautiful in the world are also the ones subjected to the most extreme physical erasures. When a prominent actor or a celebrated musician steps onto a red carpet, they are photographed by hundreds of cameras simultaneously, under harsh, unforgiving flashbulbs that capture every real-world detail. Yet, when those same moments are translated into official promotional materials or fashion editorials, those human details are systematically scrubbed away by teams of digital artists. This creates a deeply fractured sense of identity for the celebrities themselves, who must walk through the world knowing that their real physical bodies are considered insufficient by the very industries that profit from their likenesses. The internal friction caused by this constant correction has driven a growing number of public figures to speak out against the practice, expressing their frustration at seeing themselves transformed into digital dolls that they themselves do not recognize. They look at a freshly printed magazine cover and see a version of their own face that has been narrowed, brightened, and stripped of the expressive character lines that they have earned through years of living and working. This disconnect has sparked an intense debate about ownership and consent over one's own physical image, as stars begin to question why creative directors and photo editors have the unilateral power to reshape human anatomy to fit an arbitrary and rapidly changing commercial standard. The conversation has now evolved beyond mere complaints into a broader structural debate about the toxic impact these heavily manipulated visuals have on the collective psyche of society. Experts in sociology and behavioral psychology have long warned that the relentless consumption of these hyper-perfected images acts as a constant subconscious message telling people that their natural bodies are inherently flawed and in need of endless correction. This message is especially damaging to younger demographics who are still forming their identities and senses of self-worth in an era where their social lives are entirely mediated by digital screens. The endless stream of smooth porcelain skin and artificially cinched waists establishes an unachievable baseline of normality, leading to soaring rates of body dissatisfaction and a profound sense of personal inadequacy among millions of ordinary viewers. People are constantly comparing their everyday reality, complete with its natural physical variations and imperfections, against a highly polished corporate fiction that cannot possibly exist in the physical world. This has sparked a fundamental question that is currently dividing the cultural landscape. Should the practice of altering human bodies in the media to erase so-called flaws be stopped entirely, or should we simply train ourselves to view celebrity photographs with a healthy dose of salt? Proponents of the latter approach argue that photography has never been a completely objective record of absolute truth, but rather a creative medium driven by artistic interpretation and subjective vision. From this perspective, a heavily edited fashion photograph should not be evaluated as a realistic document, but rather as a piece of digital pop art or elaborate fantasy creation. Much like a painting or a cinematic special effect that utilizes stylization to evoke a specific mood or aesthetic feeling. They suggest that trying to ban or heavily regulate digital editing is a naive approach that ignores the inherent artistic freedom of creators, and that the real solution lies in building higher levels of media literacy among consumers so they can enjoy these stunning visual illusions without letting them damage their self-esteem. However, this artistic argument is being met with fierce resistance from an increasingly vocal group of consumer advocates and public figures who argue that the immense social harm caused by these images far outweighs any claims to pure creative license. They point out that unlike an abstract painting or an obvious science fiction film, commercial beauty and fashion photography deliberately disguises its fictional nature, presenting itself as an authentic representation of a real human being in order to sell a lifestyle, a clothing line, or a beauty product. This deliberate blurring of the lines between reality and artifice is what makes the phenomenon so uniquely powerful and dangerous, as it actively exploits the human instinct to emulate successful and admired members of the community. The tension between these two opposing viewpoints has created a dramatic standstill in the media world, setting the stage for a profound transformation in how the entertainment industry operates and how the next generation of cultural icons will choose to present themselves to the world. This ongoing cultural standstill is finally giving way to a powerful wave of active resistance, as an increasing number of prominent figures decide to take a definitive stand against the systemic erasure of human authenticity. For decades, the individuals who occupied the center of the entertainment world were expected to remain passive participants in their own digital manipulation, quietly accepting the industry standard as an unavoidable price of fame. However, a significant shift is occurring as celebrated actors, musicians, and models use their own platforms to reclaim control over their physical identities and challenge the established norms of major publishing houses. High-profile figures like Zendaya, Jamila Jamil, and Lupita Nyong'o have famously called out major publications for altering their bodies and hair textures without their permission. sparking viral conversations that have forced media executives to publicly apologize and re-evaluate their editing policies. For instance, when Zendaya discovered that a fashion magazine had heavily slimmed her hips and torso in a promotional photo shoot, she immediately released the original, unaltered images alongside the edited versions on her social media, stating that she was shocked to see a manipulated version of her 19-year-old body and emphasizing that these false ideals only create unrealistic beauty standards. Similarly, Lupita Nyong'o publicly criticized a British magazine for completely smoothing out and removing her natural kinky hair from its cover, explaining that the act of altering her heritage-linked traits to fit a Eurocentric ideal of perfection was deeply harmful and reinforced a narrow standard of beauty. These acts of open defiance have transformed the conversation from a minor industry complaint into a broader crusade for creative transparency and cultural inclusion, proving that the modern generation of stars is no longer willing to be treated as malleable raw material for digital artists. This movement toward total transparencies has also been championed by legendary veterans of the entertainment industry, such as Jamie Lee Curtis and Kate Winslet, who have spent years fighting for the honest depiction of aging and mature bodies in film and media. Kate Winslet has maintained a strict, long-standing policy in her contracts that forbids fashion magazines and movie studios from digitally erasing her wrinkles, expression lines, or natural body shape, arguing that younger generations desperately need to see real women who look their actual age in positions of power, success, and beauty. Jamie Lee Curtis has gone even further, actively participating in completely unairbrushed, natural light photo shoots to show the reality of a human body that has lived a full, vibrant life, challenging the deeply entrenched ageism that dominates Hollywood. By pulling back the curtain on their own real bodies, these influential women are proving that true elegance and star power do not depend on digital perfection, but rather on the raw courage to be completely seen as a real human being. The profound impact of these brave individuals has extended far beyond individual magazine covers, setting off a massive chain reaction that is completely reshaping global advertising laws, corporate branding strategies, and the structural foundations of the beauty industry itself. Several European countries, most notably France, have enacted strict legislative measures requiring any commercial photograph that has been digitally altered to make a model's silhouette appear narrower or wider, to carry a prominent explicit warning label stating that the image has been modified. This legal intervention aims to protect public health by constantly reminding consumers that the perfect bodies they see on billboards are the result of technology rather than biology, establishing a standard of legal accountability that other nations are actively studying. In tandem with these legislative efforts, major global brands and retail giants are recognizing the shifting cultural tide and completely overhauling their marketing campaigns to feature entirely unedited photographs of diverse individuals, celebrating stretch marks, cellulite, scars, and natural skin textures as beautiful badges of real life. These commercial shifts have proven to be immensely successful, demonstrating that modern audiences respond far more passionately to authentic human vulnerability than to cold, calculated corporate perfection. As we look toward the future of media, photography, and public identity, it becomes increasingly clear that the fight for digital authenticity is not merely a passing trend, but an essential evolution in how humanity will define its relationship with technology. The rise of sophisticated artificial intelligence tools capable of generating flawless, completely synthetic human beings from scratch has only heightened the stakes of this debate, threatening to distance our cultural imagery even further from real-world human experience. If we allow our media landscape to become completely dominated by hyper-perfected, artificial illusions that bear no relationship to the natural human form, we risk creating an alienated society that is perpetually disconnected from its own reality, trapped in an endless loop of self-doubt and unachievable desires. Therefore, the choice to embrace our natural physical variations, our wrinkles, our pores, and our unique imperfections is a profound act of cultural reclamation and psychological survival. By demanding transparency from media creators, supporting public figures who choose to show their true selves, and consciously training our eyes to celebrate the beauty of the real world, we can build a healthier visual culture for generations to come. Real beauty has never been about the total absence of flaws, but rather about the vibrant, unmistakable presence of life itself. And it is time for our collective imagery to finally reflect that undeniable truth.